Born in Hong Kong, Adrienne Clarkson immigrated to Canada in 1942. After earning considerable acclaim as a journalist with the CBC, she became the first Agent General for Ontario in Paris, then took on the role of president for publishing company McClelland and Stewart, and all before being sworn in as Canada's 26th Governor General in 1999. In her 6-year term as the Governor General, Madame Clarkson transformed Canada's relationship with the armed forces through commitment and advocacy for the troops. It has grown to be a very personal relationship that continues to this day. Since leaving her post as Governor General, Adrienne Clarkson helped found the Institute for Canadian Citizenship and was named the Colonel-in-Chief of the Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry. She is also the author of several books, including Room for All of Us, a moving collection of immigrant stories. And the Right Honorable Adrienne Clarkson is here in Alberta this evening and joins us now. A great pleasure, privilege.
Thank you very much. It's lovely to be in Edmonton.
And speak with you.
Yeah, City of Sunshine. I love it.
Now, you are here to be the keynote speaker at the Yellow Ribbon Gala this evening.
Yes.
You drop the puck at Claire Drake Arena tomorrow, all, of course, in support of Heroes Hockey Challenge. Given the military involvement, I have to think those are two events you're going to feel very comfortable in.
Yes, very much so. When people used to ask me as I was nearing the end of my mandate as Governor General, it was after 6 years, what will you really miss? Thinking I would say something like the food or the garden or something. And to me, it was going to be the military, because the wonderful bonds that I had with the military while I was Governor General were very meaningful to me. My husband and I spent every Christmas abroad where our troops were. And so we were in the Persian Gulf on the HMCS Montreal and HMCS Winnipeg. We were in Bosnia. We were in Kosovo. We were in Kabul twice. We were in Kandahar. And so I thought, that's what I'm going to miss. And then within a year of leaving Ottawa, I was asked to become the Colonel-in-Chief of Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry, which I have been very happy to do for the last 7 years. And of course, this year is our big year because it's the centennial, and Edmonton plays a huge part in it, and Alberta plays a huge part in it because we are a Western regiment.
As Colonel-in-Chief, what does that role entail?
Well, it's something that's quite wonderful. It's very much a role of combining a kind of a feeling of overseeing everything and being informed about everything and knowing about everything, and then things being done in your name. And it really is a quite wonderful thing. And I'm very happy to be here. I'm the only Canadian Colonel-in-Chief of a Canadian regiment. The rest are all in Britain. And so I feel great about it because I feel I can do things here for the regiment because I'm here, I'm Canadian, and it's wonderful. Even though I don't live in the West, I feel a great connection with the regiment, which is the two battalions, the 1st and the 3rd, are here in Edmonton, and the 2nd is in Shiloh, Manitoba, just outside Winnipeg. So really, it brings me out west, which I'm happy about.
And I'm sure you've come to know many of the men and women through those years as Colonel-in-Chief.
And I would say certainly of the officers, you get to know them, and of course they change command of the battalion every 2 years or so. So you learn, you know who they are, and you get very invested in their careers and their lives, and you know about their families, and it's a really wonderful thing. There's a combination of a family feeling and the best things about a regiment, which is that people look out for each other and care about each other. I think that's what people don't understand about the armed forces. Often you don't realize that the armed forces are like a large organism that has its own being. It's like, what is a city like? What is a village like? What is a town like? Well, the armed forces is like that, and then each regiment has its own traditions and its own meaning and its own feeling. It's like belonging to a group that went to university together, or that sort of thing. It's a group that has a certain feeling of having aimed in the same direction. And in our particular case, we were formed at the time of the First World War. We were the last privately raised regiment in the British Empire by a man called Hamilton Gault. And so there's a romantic thing to it. And Princess Patricia was the daughter of the Governor General of the time, the Duke of Connaught. So there's that connection too. And so I really relish my role.
Well, and as you mentioned, this is, of course, the centennial for PPCLI. What's your role in that regard?
Well, it's all marked off in my calendar, and I'll be back here in Edmonton. Today we got the Freedom of the City from Edmonton, which was wonderful, and the sun shone, and we had the Edmonton Pipe Band. You know, when the call came out to, in 1914, the entire pipe band of Edmonton joined up. The entire pipe band. So that's a really extraordinary kind of thing, you know, 100 years of that. And so we have, you know, I'll be back in August because we're going to start off something called the Memorial Baton Relay. We're going to run this baton with names inside it all across the country. We're going to go to 39 centers, and it's going to be so exciting. It's just wonderful. We have a wonderful partnership with Canadian Tire, and we'll be going across the country to do this thing and end up in Toronto in September, and I think it's going to be just marvelous.
Last night on our show on Alberta Primetime, we had a very intriguing discussion with retired soldier Paul Franklin. I suspect
Yes,
you know who
I
Paul
do know
is.
Paul.
Denise Cantor as well was here. She's with Edmonton Garrison, MFRC, and they were talking about the many challenges now facing members of the military and, of course, their families as well. You've been witness to the trauma that military members have faced, the growth in knowledge and understanding, awareness of PTSD. Do we as a society, do we as Canadians have a deep enough grasp of how deep that challenge runs?
No, we don't. And I must say that I did not realize it till 2003 when I gave the commendation. I was Commander-in-Chief and Governor-General then, and I didn't have I had a relationship with all the regiments, and I gave in Winnipeg a commendation, Commander-in-Chief's commendation, which is a very, very precious and rare thing, to Princess Patricia's, who had been at Medak Pocket, which was a very traumatic event. And before we had the big ceremony in the arena and so on, I was asked if I would receive some of the people who didn't feel comfortable coming to the arena to get the thing, even though they had been at Medak Pocket. And they were all people suffering from PTSD. And they spoke to me. They came and we talked privately, about 20 of them. And they did not feel comfortable because they said, you know, they couldn't carry on their normal life. Their lives in many ways had been shattered. And I think that's not new. I think that we always had that happen. And I think that many of us who grew up in smaller communities, you know, used to pass Legion halls and see people going to Legion halls where they would drink with their buddies. And it wasn't about the drinking. I think it was because they felt comfortable there, and often they didn't have to say the words. But they're tremendously wounded people psychically who were not bearing the wounds physically. And I think we've always had that, and I think now we have to come to realize that that it is something that is real and that we can help people with it and not just let them go and disappear and be part of the landscape that way.
Now, above and beyond your involvement with military, you've spent a lot of your career as well dealing with matters of citizenship and immigration. What do you make of all the turmoil now over the temporary foreign workers
Well,
program?
I think what we want is we do not want people, I think fellow Canadians, I'm not talking politically, I'm talking you, me, and people in the street. I think we want to have people here who are Canadians, who are citizens, who are working to be like us. And so we don't want to have people that we just bring in so that we can throw them out again because they're not useful anymore on an assembly line or in a field picking something. I think actually that's probably a bad example I've said, because sometimes perhaps, and that's what we used to have always, is just temporary foreign workers to pick fruit when was not enough people to do that, and we could bring in people for a few months. But to use it for to bring in people and kind of exploit them, I mean exploit them in the sense of our exploiting them and making them feel that they would never be part of our society. I don't think so. I think what we want is citizens. We don't want temporary people. We have always gone out to look for the right kind of people who will come to this country, become permanent residents, and then take up citizenship. My Institute for Canadian Citizenship is based on that. It's based on the fact that people choose, once they have been filtered through in all the places in the world where we do that, through our embassies, through our immigration offices, when they come, that after 3 to 5 years, or now it's going to be 3 to 6 years, or 6 years, whatever, that when they pass those tests and so on, they become Canadians. They are not foreign anymore. And I think that's what we want. I think all Canadians want to have people here who are equal to us, because that's what we had when we came here. And everybody came here except for the native people. They're the only original people. Everybody else is an immigrant in this country. And you forget that at your peril, because it is important for us to know that we come out of people who were not poor, who were not rich, who were poor, whom other countries didn't want. People, you know, after the Second World War, when I was a little child, I remember all the people that came from Europe who had no home, who were displaced people. And after that, we've taken waves of people like that, and they've all made their way. We all must, in Alberta, you have a lot of Ismaili people. You know, there's an Ismaili mayor of Calgary, and these people were expelled, had their citizenships taken away from them in East Africa, and they had to come to another place, and they've come to us and enriched us. And that's the story over and over again. That's what we want for Canada.
Speaking of enrichment, the grandmother of many nations.
Ah, yes.
I love that name.
Yes, so do I. You know, being in Lethbridge, when the Blood Tribe said they would like to make me an honorary chief, I thought, wow, because I you know, thought that was just wonderful. I think it's a privilege to be named an honorary chief of any Aboriginal group. That is really something that they bring you into their circle. They give you a name. And I didn't know what the name was, so I said to them, what will be my name? Because I was quite interested in it, apart from getting the wonderful headdress, which I have. And they said, well, we know it when the ceremony happens. You know, you'll know. It's so wonderfully, beautifully Aboriginal. We will know at the time. There will be kind of a vision of it. So I was a little worried. I thought, oh gosh, you know, I'm a woman and everything, and maybe I hope they don't call me something like, you know, bright yellow bird or something. I would like something interesting. Anyway, I was just thrilled when they called me grandmother of many nations.
It seems so fitting.
Oh, it seemed to me wonderful, and I glory in it. I think it's really, really great.
And it continues to enrich your life?
It does. It enriches my life, and I think it's absolutely wonderful. And I think of myself, you know, it's something to live up to, because it's basically with the Governor General. Because Queen Victoria was the one in whose name treaties were done, was called grandmother by Native people. And in fact, when I went to ceremonies, often with Native people, they would address me as grandmother. So that, to me, was a wonderful recognition of a role that I have played for them in the country, and my role as Governor General. It was very, very meaningful to me.
Well, between the Blood Tribe and, of course, PPCLI, you have a very warm and very personal connection with our province. Very much appreciate that.
And I always love coming here, and I love coming to Edmonton, which has the most sun of any city in Canada.
Oh, that's nice to hear. I very much appreciate spending some time with you. Thank you.
Nice to talk to you, Mark.
Clarkson.
Thank you so much.
Of course, that's the Right Honourable Adrienne Clarkson.